Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic. Today's story is that of Sasha Marsden. We are going up to Blackpool today. Grab yourself a stick of rock, let's go. Sin and Tonic! I don't think we need to worry about me getting overheated today because it is cold. It is cold. How cold is it? Let's see. It is this cold. 7 degrees. And I've just checked, in Blackpool today, at the moment, it is 6. It's always a bit colder up north. I thought it might be more cold, but it's sunny there, and it's a bit overcast here. Weather was safe. Anyhow, let's dive into today's story. We've got the Marsden family. They're a large family, mum, dad, lots of children, and the youngest child is called Sasha. They live in a village just outside of Blackpool called Staining. Sasha was described as a firecracker. That's how the words I would use to describe her in a nice way. She was lively, energetic, she was happy. She would listen to people's problems, her friends and things like that, but then she would want to sort of whisk them up and move them on into happier times. She was cheeky, fun-loving. She was also quite defiant, it sounded like. And in an interview that I watched with her parents, it seemed like that was in a almost sort of jovial way. They didn't take it, they weren't super cross about it, but she pushed boundaries, always seeking to like have a later curfew, being late, and really just wanting to like live life by the beat of her own drum. Because of her nature, she really didn't appreciate village life, so she was often in Blackpool. Let's go to July 2010. Sasha is 14 at the time. And one evening at 8:30, her curfew was at 9 o'clock, so she wasn't late or anything like that. 8:30, the Marsden family, mum and dad, get a phone call to say that Sasha is at the police station. I found it interesting that her mum immediately thought, what has she done? So I think Sasha could be sort of, I'm going to use the word cheeky and push boundaries, you know, test the water with things. She was in the police station, she wasn't well. She had gone to the park in Blackpool with a friend, a boy. He was 13, so he was a year younger than Sasha. When they were at the park, an older man, who was 22, he approached Sasha and her friend, and he had vodka, he had alcohol. I'm not sure if it was vodka, I might have made that up. But he had alcohol. He offered the alcohol to Sasha, her friend, and Sasha did drink this alcohol. So she became intoxicated, she was drunk, and then she passed out. And then this 22-year-old man at a children's park, he then began in public, like in the park, it wasn't hidden, he began to R-word Sasha. So he got her drunk, he got her unconscious. She was unconscious, so she drank a lot of this alcohol. Her parents said that she wasn't used to alcohol. She was 14, so that's quite early, isn't it, to be drinking? You don't know your limits at that point. You don't know the effect that drinking is. Vile. It is vile. I can remember having my first vodka experience, and not good. That's why maybe I'm thinking it's vodka, because that was my first drink. Don't project, Sophie. While this ordeal was going on, her friend, who was 13-year-old boy, is very sad, and I really feel for him because he felt completely helpless. There was nothing he could do. This was a 22-year-old man, and he was a young boy. However, 2 women who happened to be passing by at that time, they saw what was happening. I can't believe how brazen that is of that man, but they saw what he was doing to her, and they went over and they pulled him off and they held him down, called the police, and waited until they came and he was arrested. Yes, well done. That is just a very traumatising, awful ordeal to have happened. The man was arrested, he was taken into custody, Sasha was taken to the police station, and then she was collected by her parents. The 22-year-old man from the park, it all went to court and everything, and he got a 5-year and 4-month sentence. What a dangerous human. That's quite a low sentence, I think, for that, because there was witnesses. He was definitely, caught in the act, And a 14-year-old girl in a park during, like not in the middle of the night, not hidden away, not abducted, but just like did that. That's really dangerous. That's a dangerous person. 5 years and 4 months. Wow. This event had just devastating effects on Sasha, as you can imagine. She also, it really blew my mind, but I'm actually not surprised. I'm not surprised, really. Teenagers, children, all humans can be unkind. But when you're a teenager, when you're a young person, when you're a child, children can be cruel. They can be. And so, so she was bullied at school because she was R-worded. She was bullied because she was R-worded. Makes sense, but children, teenagers, they can be cruel. Again, like I always say, that lobe not developed. She was moved from that school into another school. She did have some friends that she maintained, like a few close friends that she still met up with and hung out with that were kind and nice to her. However, the bullying, the moving of the schools, obviously the incident itself, it had traumatized her. I would say it's trauma, isn't it? So she ended up becoming withdrawn. She became angry. She also became quite promiscuous, which isn't the first thing you would think when somebody has been R-worded, but I did a little bit of research and it's actually quite common when that happens because the person that it's happened to wants to reclaim their autonomy, their power. So, if when they're choosing to go out and to have sex with other people, they're choosing it. So it gives them a sense of having power back. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, that does make sense, actually. It just had a very big impact. She began to self-harm. She withdrew from everybody. And also, worryingly, she ran away. She ran away quite a lot. It was like she couldn't cope with what had happened. And I'm going to refrain from having an opinion about her parents because when I read, I do have one, I think, but when I read a lot of comments about this case, a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say about her parents, that they should have done this, they should have done that, they should have been supporting her more. It came across that they didn't really, maybe they didn't know how to support her. It's quite a big thing that's happened to their daughter. And as we well know, when things happen and mental health is an issue, there's not much support at all. You're just left to it. I'm not defending them. I'm not gonna go into it, I don't think, because obviously this is a Sin and Tonic story. They will have their own demons in their mind if they, we don't need to add to that. Every time that Sasha went missing from home, they would go out and look for her. So they would call the police sometimes, they would go out and look. Normally they would find her themselves. And also they began to drop her off and pick her up. So whenever she went out, arranged to be going out or seeing friends or anything like that, they would drop her and pick her up. So that was the arrangement. That was the new thing. She wasn't to travel on her own or get a bus or walk. She always was dropped off and picked up. Fast forward to 2012, Sasha is now 16 years old, and all of these behaviours and stuff are still going on. And she then meets a lad called Danny, and he is 2 years older than her, so he's 18. Sounds like her parents didn't know this lad very well, and it was all a little bit like, what's going on now? What's happening now? And then on the 31st of August 2012, Sasha went missing again, but this time it was different. She was gone for 2 days and they could not find her, so they did have to call the police, and she was gone for 2 days without any contact. This is a very vulnerable, unwell child, and that must have been terrifying. Eventually, after 2 days, Sasha called home, and she was over 300 miles away, and she had run off with Danny, with her boyfriend that the family didn't know all that well. This is just a thought of mine, so it's not, take it with a pinch of salt. But when she agreed to come home, she told her parents that, there was a, what's it called? An ultimatum? I don't know. She said, is that the word? Yeah. I will only come home if Danny can move in with us. So her boyfriend. She wanted to live with him, and she wanted to move in with them. I don't know enough about Sasha to know whether that was part of her personality, if she could be a bit manipulative, if she was, had done all of this to get her boyfriend to live with her, or in my opinion, Sasha's behaviour seems like she is pushing boundaries, waiting for someone to, like hold them up to her. She pushes them for someone to to stand firm. That's just my opinion. Mum and Dad agree. They just want her home. Yes, he can move in. Just come home. Dad goes off to collect them. Now we're in 2012 September, so she's home. Danny's moved in. Everything seems to calm down, and Sasha seems to be quite stable. She joins college and enrolls on a childcare course, and she does bloody well, actually. She does really well in her studies, and she gets advanced upper level and stuff like that. So she is she's cracking on, and she's ready for a job. She would like a part-time job, so she's sort of keeping the feelers out for that. But it seemed like Sasha was happy, and it seems like the family were quite happy, and everything seemed to be running smoothly, and she was just getting on with a very sort of normal, for her age, life. College, looking for a job, and living at home, and she seemed to be improving. Lots of her behaviour seemed to be getting better. January 2013. Sasha's doing really well at college, everything's going really well, and she tells her parents that somebody has reached out to her. A friend has reached out to say that there is a job. So a friend of a friend has reached out to say that they need a housekeeper or a cleaner at a hotel in Blackpool, and the shifts would be perfect for her because they would be after college is finished, so a few hours like on a Monday and a Thursday, cleaning, doing rooms, things like that, and give her a bit more independence and her own money. That's what she really wanted, was her own money coming in. She was offered a trial, which was on the following Monday, and she spoke to her parents about it, and her dad said, right, okay, I'll drive you for your trial Monday. So he went and picked her up on Monday after college and then drove her to the high street, because this is a big red flag for me, because she didn't tell her dad the address of the hotel. That would be, I said I wasn't going to judge, but I'd want to know that, where she is, where actually is she going. But she said, oh, just drop me on the high street, it's down here, this hotel's down here. So she got dropped off on the high street, and then an hour and a half later, off Dad goes. Hour and a half later, she rings her dad and she says, can you come and pick me up? She does get picked up, same place on the high street, and then she's really excited, she's really animated, it's gone well. She'd changed a few beds, she'd had a look around, had a tour, and she'd been paid £10, so she was really excited about that because she'd hardly done anything and she got a tenner. Tenner is exciting when you are 16, back in the day. And yeah, she seemed really animated and really happy. She said that most of the time she had just been talking to the manager, David Minto. Minto, not Mento. That's sweets. So yeah, so they'd had a good chat, and he'd explained what he required, what days that he wanted her to work, and they had it all sort of sorted out, and he offered her the job. So she was due to go back on Thursday for a shift after college. Thursday rolls around and she goes to college as normal, and then her dad picks her up from college, drives her again to the high street. So she still hasn't said where the hotel is. Drives her to the same place in the high street. She gets out and she goes to work, and she says to her dad, I will do the same as I did last time. I will ring you when I have finished my shift, which was due to be definitely way before about 8 o'clock in the evening. The family were definitely expecting her home that night before then, because she had a party at 8:30, but she never came home. The family waited around to have dinner. When she wasn't back, they had their tea, and they just assumed that she was busy and it was a busy shift at the hotel. When she wasn't back in time for this party, alarm bells started to ring. Now, at this point for Sasha, going missing was out of character. Whereas that would not have been out of character in the years before, it was now. She was settled, she was happy, she had a social life, she had a boyfriend, he was waiting at home, she always came home, she had dinner, she was very much happy with her boyfriend. They were living their life and having a good time. So now this was not normal. And this is when not knowing the address of the hotel comes into play, because where the heck, they don't even know where to begin. But her mum puts on detective hat. Good old Facebook. Danny knows Sasha's password to Facebook, so they do a little bit of investigation work. And Danny knows that the name of the manager of the hotel is David. Doesn't know his surname, but he knows that he's called David. And in her friends list, Sasha's friends list, there are only 2 Davids. One of the Davids Danny knows, and it's a friend. The other David is an older man, and there's photographs of him standing outside a hotel. And from his Facebook profile, they found the address and the phone number of said hotel. They did ring the hotel, but there was no answer. Suspicious hotel. So they drove there. They just went because they just wanted to know what was going on. And when they arrived, David Minto, he answered the door at the hotel and he said, no, she left hours ago. The family then went back to their old routine, I imagine, from when she did used to go missing. And they went round to friends' houses and just looked for her in all of the places that they've probably found her before, but they didn't have any luck. And then when it reached 11 o'clock, which was her curfew now at the time, she wasn't back, and this is when they called the police. 15 minutes later, the police arrived at their house. And they did the usual sort of thing of asking for her description, taking a photograph, things like that. But there was something a bit different about this time that the police were there. This time there were 2 police officers and one of them kept going out of the room, kept using their phone, kept speaking to someone, sort of kept being interrupted and being on the telephone. And it was a bit like, what's going on? A bit unusual. And I guess your heckles must be up. Like, what is going on? And then after the police had been there for only 20 minutes, moments like this I just think must be so surreal for somebody to live through. The officer came in and he said, we have found a body this evening, and from the description that you have given us of Sasha, it may well be her. Can you imagine? The police then take Sasha's toothbrush so that they can get DNA to identify the body, which straight away you know that there is something horrific has happened to that body if you can't go to a place and identify it for yourself. So that was horrifying for the family. And it would take 2 days for the DNA to come back to confirm that this was Sasha's body. Tragically, earlier that evening when Sasha's mum had gone to the hotel, she was actually only metres away from Sasha's body, and she had no idea. Just hours before they reported Sasha missing, a body had been found burning in the alleyway behind the hotel, a body that had been set on fire. The body had no identification or anything like that, and it was only when hours later, Sasha's parents, when they called to report her missing and they've had her description, it was only then thought that this could be the same person. Residents in the area, they saw the fire, but they didn't really think that much of it. And a couple of people sort of came out into the alleyway to investigate. A few people thought it was a mannequin. It's never a freaking mannequin. And yeah, when they saw blood, that's when they realised that this was no mannequin, and they called the police. David Minto, they wasted no time. He was arrested. He was the only employee in the hotel when Sasha had gone missing. A body, at that time unidentified, but a body that seemed to be that of Sasha's, was found outside of that hotel in the back alley. It doesn't take a genius to kind of think he could be, well, he's definitely prime suspect, isn't he? David Minto had been the only person at the hotel when Sasha was there. However, since then, his girlfriend had returned home. So David Minto and his girlfriend, they lived in the hotel, but on a Monday and a Thursday, his girlfriend had another job, part-time job. So she was out of the house, out of the hotel. You just find it really interesting, don't you? That on a Monday and a Thursday. These are the days that Sasha has been offered a job. These are the days, really? Mowing the lawn? Thank you. These are the days that his girlfriend is not there. That's interesting. And if we think back, the trial day or trial shift that Sasha had, that was a Monday afternoon, and this Thursday, was her first shift. The police spoke to Minto's girlfriend, and Well, I mean, that was interesting because she had not a clue that Minto had organised for Sasha to work there. She didn't know anything about it. And also it was a head scratcher to her because the hotel was currently closed for reservations, closed for renovations, although reservations is a word that you would also use for hotel, Sophie, so don't worry. And also it was winter, so it's normally quieter in the winter time. Blackpool is like a holiday resort. So there was absolutely no need whatsoever for a housekeeper or a cleaner. It was only her and Minto that lived there. They didn't need any staff. The girlfriend also claimed that when she returned back to the hotel at about 9 p.m, Minto was very quick to tell her why the place stunk to high heaven of cleaning products, because he said he had had a terrible nosebleed and, it had gone everywhere. So he was cleaning up his mess. After he had explained why he was cleaning, his girlfriend then told police that he had taken her outside to the back alley to show her this mannequin that was on fire. He was like, "Oh, look, there's this mannequin outside, it's on fire." And ironically, she was then the one that called the police because she noticed that this was not a mannequin and that there was blood. And she called the police. When Minto was interviewed, he had a different story to tell. He claimed that he had had sexual intercourse with Sasha, consensual, and that afterwards she had had an almighty nosebleed. That was his original story, okay? That was what he said when he was arrested. He said that after he'd helped her and cleaned her up and everything, and then he cleaned the hotel, and then she left, and that was all he knew. She left. What a coincidence that she was then found in the back alley on fire. The autopsy showed the extent of the injuries to Sasha. She had been stabbed 56 times in her head and neck. 48 of those stab wounds were to the back of her head, which suggested that whoever had murdered her had attacked her from behind. She also had defensive wounds on her arms and hands where she would have tried to fight her attacker when she did sort of turn around and when she had a chance, and there were a lot of those injuries, so she did put up a fight. Sadly, Sasha was also R-worded, either as she was dying or just afterwards. In the hotel, they also found a lot of forensic evidence, and it was quite damning, really. There was a lot of evidence against Minto because they found Sasha's blood all over the place. It was. I mean, that's a brutal attack. They also found a men's shirt with Sasha's blood on it, Sasha's DNA, and also Minto's DNA. So he was wearing the shirt. They also looked at Sasha's laptop and her Facebook and things like that, and they found that it wasn't long before she was murdered that she had accepted a friend request from Minto, and he had spoken to her. They had actually met previously in person through a mutual friend. She couldn't remember Minto, but they had a discussion about it on Facebook, on Messenger, and then he offered her this job opportunity at the hotel, this fake job. But he also had a bit of a story behind things as well. So he told Sasha that he didn't want anybody else to come to the hotel with her. She was to come on her own because other people made him feel uncomfortable. You run a hotel. Good one. 16, she didn't put that together. She wasn't seeing these red flags. So he said, please don't bring anyone with you and just get them to drop you off on the high street. So he sort of planted this whole thing. So it's a bit like grooming, isn't it? He basically made it so nobody would know where the hell she was. In their messages, he also made it very clear that she was only to go to the hotel on Mondays and Thursdays because that was the only time that he was going to be there, and he wanted that to be the case. So it was only to be Mondays and Thursdays, and he was quite, firm on that. Minto was charged with Sasha's murder on the 3rd of February in 2013. In the July, it went to trial, and he maintained his innocence. However, his story changed somewhat. So it went from her having sex with him consensually and then a nosebleed of which he then sorted out, and off she went, bye-bye. When he went to trial, he said, no, that's not what happened. So they did have consensual sex. He then went, this is what he's saying. I always have to reiterate that because it's like, I don't like those words coming out of my mouth because it's not true. He went upstairs. He started to clean upstairs, and then he heard a noise, and it was confusing. What's happened? What's this noise? What's going on? What's occurring downstairs? I'll go and check. When he went downstairs, he found Sasha's body, so he says, and she has been murdered. What? By somebody else. Also, they had forensic evidence that Sasha had been assaulted, R-worded, while she was dying or soon after. So what? How long did you wait before you heard that noise? And come on. He said when he found her body, there was nothing he could do for her, and he completely panicked because he was the only person there. So he took her body down into the basement flat, which is where he lived with his girlfriend, and he put her body in the bath, and he washed her body, and then he wrapped her body in carpet from the hotel, underlay, and I think some black sacks. Forgive me if that's wrong. And he then took her body into the alley out the back. But he did not set it on fire. So somebody else did that too. Did the killer come back? Like, also, if you come downstairs and you find a horrifically murdered young person, young girl, right? Because that would have been vile to see. Like, if we're entertaining what he's done for 1 second, if you came down and you saw that, why aren't you running? Like, she's clearly, there's nothing you can do for her now. Why aren't you running very far away? Because the person that has just done that is probably in your hotel. But no, you carry her down to your flat and wash. Come on. Also, again, this happened last week. These people, there's no one there. There's no witness there to what you really did. So you could come up with any story, and that's what you came up with. What? Again, I'm pleased that they are not the sharpest tool in the box because, yeah, we don't want them to be. We want them to get sent to prison for what they have done. But come on, mate. That's your story. What a knob. Call the police. Lock yourself in a room. You don't clean up the murder scene of somebody else. Like, if that's what you're saying. If that's what you're saying, you cleaned up the murder scene. I mean, imbecile. The prosecution painted a very chilling picture of what happened that evening, and it's very likely that this is true. He had groomed her to go to the hotel on the Monday. He had then offered her a job, which got her into the door. Evidence showed that she died between 4 and 5 that evening, and that he had, not long after she'd arrived, and that he had attacked her from behind with a kitchen knife from the hotel. There was a lot of blood evidence. 46 stab wounds to the back of her head and neck. That is a lot. That is an angry person. Forensic evidence shows that her body was placed in the bath and washed. I'm not sure why he did that, because he then did roll her body up, that was true, and he took her body outside at 7 p.m. around then, and then set it on fire. So I'm not sure why he washed her body, because I'm pretty sure that like fire would have got rid of physical evidence. I don't know, but anyway, he did that. He washed her body in the bath, and then he was the person that drummed up interest in people looking at her body. Like he sort of got the residents to notice it. He was like, oh, have you seen the fire outside? Have you seen it? Come and look. And sort of got people to go and look at it. And then, like, that's sick, isn't it? Like, so just make sure everyone knows that it's there and, like, look at your handiwork. I don't know. It's, who knows how their brains work, but that's weird and grim. It's like he was showing off. And a lot of the people did think it was a mannequin, so they were just like, oh, right. And he was saying, like, look closer. Lots of people testified in court, so there were witnesses, residents, there was the girlfriend, and there was also a witness who, a 22-year-old woman, who 3 weeks before Sasha was murdered in the hotel, she had also gone to the hotel, and she had also been in contact with Minto. And when she had gone to the hotel, she had been given a tour, and that tour ended in Minto's bedroom, where he made advances towards her, and she brushed him off at first and was like, no, thank you. And then when he tried again, she managed to shove him, and she ran and she got out of the hotel. The prosecution believed that this was a trial run, at getting somebody to the hotel and, making advances and things like that. So that was his trial before he then lured Sasha there. Also, if it was a dummy run, he was successful in offering somebody a job and offering them an interview and them coming to the hotel without anyone knowing, and, coming on a Monday or a Thursday. It was a Thursday that this woman went. And so that was successful. So that worked well for him. And what didn't work so well was, the advancement and stuff like that, and the tour, and it made her uncomfortable. So she said she was very uncomfortable with how it had all gone. So he knew that he couldn't do that again. It wouldn't be a success. So it obviously then meant that he, to have a trial where he was nice and kind and he gave her £10 to Sasha, that it is like grooming, isn't it? And then when she went the next time, he knew that he couldn't just make an advancement because she would brush him off, and there could be a chance that she would get out of the hotel. So that's probably why they think that he then attacked her from behind. 46 stab wounds. There was more, but 46 to the back of her head and neck. So he really wanted to make sure that she did not get away. He was sentenced to life in prison and a minimum of 35 years. One of Sasha's sisters, Gemma, she successfully lobbied to have compulsory sex education in schools in 2020. It was added to the national curriculum. That is all I have for you on today's case. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because something is going on and it's making me annoyed, to be honest. So we will leave them to whatever improvements they're doing. I need like a Sin and Tonic HQ that's not the sauna, don't I? I need to work on that. Get Paul involved. He will thank me. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Hope you've had a lovely week. Oh, give me some suggestions, please. I'd like some more. I have a slight fear that my son has deleted my note with all of my cases that I write. It's not his fault. Well, he did it, but it's not, it's an accident. So, never mind. But yeah, that would be super helpful. If you have any cases that you would like me to cover, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right, love you, leave you. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Sin and Tonic. Hope you can join me next week for another true crime story and a glass or a vase or a jar of gin. See you on the other side. Bye.